Today I want to talk about some of the deals I just closed or going to close and share with you some of the tip I have how to get the property into escrow, both from the listing side or and the buyer side. And then lastly, I'm going to close the presentation with some numbers, just some key indicators of real estate, like median house sold, price sold, and things like that. So the
Okay.
first size actually is the number I took from, sorry about the small number, but those are the number I took from CAR's website. And it kind of show the price differences, for the median price differences between August and July. Um, and you can see the highlighted yellow highlight is in San Diego. So there's a small decrease in terms of a sold price. It's not that bad, almost like 3%, but it's not that bad. However, if you look at the year to year, this year, August compared to last year, August, we actually went up by 14%. So the price appreciation has gone up so much, last year. I still think it's a good time to buy just because, the interest rate is still very low, and also in the long run house is going to appreciate anyway. So if you are buying for your primary residence, I don't think there's a lot of risk. Even if it's investment properties, as long as you calculate the return on investment, I think you'll be okay. I mean, pretty much all my clients make money for their investment property. So I work with roughly about 80 investors. We are actively managing about maybe 90 property. So this one I want to share with you because I thought this is so interesting how we get the offer accepted. So this buyer came to me as a refer buyer. So this property is in Forest Ridge, zip code is 92127. If you are familiar with San Diego, you will know this is the area with good school district and especially Forest Ridge. I have sold and bought a few property for my client there, and we also do property management there. So this happened to be a townhouse, 3 bedrooms, 3-story. The first floor has a bedroom, and then go upstairs. That's living room, dining room, and then if you go up one more story, then that's a two additional bedroom up on the third floor. I asked my buyer whether they feel comfortable increase their earnest money deposit. So instead of typical 3%, I forget how many percent we did, but it was definitely much higher than 3%. And then I also asked them whether they feel comfortable to release part of the earnest money deposit once we pass the inspection contingency. So the reason I want to do that is to show the sellers we are really sincere in buying this home. So anyhow, we submit the offer, and then we did get seller multiple counter offer. If I remember correctly, the listing agent might have said they were counseling 3 to 5 different people, and then my buyer pretty much gave up at that time because they were like, we are not going to increase our offer. This is the best offer we have. So I talked to the listing agent, and the listing agent was actually pretty friendly with me. She actually say, she encouraged me just still go ahead and send it, even though we are not going to increase the offer. So what we did is we just sent it back their original offer number. We didn't increase the price at all. And very surprisingly, we got that. And the listing agent said we won the over someone who actually paid $50,000 more than us. That's a lot of number. Basically the person who came up with the highest offer happened to be needing to sell their own property first. So they are doing a sell contingency on the
Oh,
purchase of the home. And Kenny, I mean, with such a competitive market, you probably never, well, I shouldn't say you never, it's a very small chance you will get your offer accepted.
it is
Um, so
true.
yeah, so I
So,
think that person only had 2 weeks to wait, but the seller didn't want to wait for 2 weeks to get another $50,000. They went with us. And also, we were able, because we get more earnest money deposit, and we also release earnest money deposit ahead of time. So I think that was definitely the reason we got the offer accepted. And then the inspection, there was a little hiccup for the inspection. And here's something I want to share with the agents if you happen to represent the seller. So I was given a repair invoice for AC ahead of time, and I was told the seller did the repair according to the invoice. Um, but during the inspections, I discovered because they also sent us the old pictures. They sent us the old inspection report, and I'm pretty detail attention person, so I was comparing the AC before versus now, and I found the serial number of the AC is still the same. And that's not what they describe what they did to the AC. So I actually called the company who provide the receipt. Well, actually, it was just I think it was just the estimate, and they told me they never did the work. So there was a discrepancy between what the seller say versus what we discover. So my buyer asked me to request the amount of money on the estimate. I actually heard this after work after we closed. The agent told me the seller was actually not very happy. We request that, but the seller gave us half of the amount we requested, which was still better than nothing. Because the AC actually has nothing wrong with the AC. It just I think the seller mistakenly thinking that was done, so she gave us that estimate. But anyway, so we closed last Friday on this deal. The buyer is happy. They're going to do some remodeling to the home before they move in. So this is that.
I do have a question now.
Yes.
At the time you requested the repairs, did you still have your inspection contingency?
Yeah, I always kept that, even regardless how much pressure they gave me. Here's the things I found: in order to be a good real estate agent, you need to be able to handle the pressure, right? So Kenny, even if
Mm-hmm.
I roll, I have inspection contingency for 8 days. If I don't remove the inspection contingency, I can still request repair. Of course, the listing agent can give me the notice to perform, but it will buy me a couple more days, because I need to call the AC company to find out what's going on with that AC. So yeah,
Okay.
I didn't remove the contingency yet. I still have my contingency, and I think that's one of the reason they agreed to give us some money. So next slide is I closed this listing. This is my listing. I closed it yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So this is a two bedroom, two bath condo. Relatively inexpensive, has a great return on investment. I was actually expecting more offer, but I think I end up maybe getting five each offer, and the numbers are so similar. We decided to just pick a winning offer, and then after we picked the winning offer, we got another offer that was slightly higher, and not too much higher. But anyway, that also shows timing is important. Get your offer in as soon as possible because you don't know when they're going to pick the offer, select the offer. And also, if you think that you are going to be late, contact the listing agents. The listing agent know ahead of time you are sending an offer and ask them to please wait for you. Because usually listing agent will tell me, okay, if you are sending an offer, I can wait for you till a certain time. So this is kind of one of those. The buyer, what kind of repair request they have asked? I think they asked minimal things. There was some issue with the home, but minor, like window seal broken, and so I kind of figured out each window is probably $500 to $1,000. I believe the buyer might have just requested $1,000 or something like that. My seller agreed. Oh, there was actually something I want to share with you on this deal. So one of my seller is foreigner, and so that's very very important to. I think Kenny, you have shared FRTA, and then
Yes.
withholding things like that. So this property happened to be owned by three individual, which is not that common for my listings. Most of my listings are owned by husband and wife, but this happened to be husband wife and then the wife's sister. So I have three investor on this title, and then we managed this property for roughly about maybe 10 years, and they were ready to sell. So we put it on the market, and because I know my sellers are not in United States, and with a COVID it's so difficult to get the notary appointment at U.S. consular. So as soon as we have the accepted offer, I ask my seller to make appointment with the consular right away. And I also ask them to make multiple appointments. And that definitely pay off because you just never know which appointment might actually get canceled, without any notices. So we actually were able to close pretty much on time without any delay. And also another thing, because we have multiple sellers, it's important to share with escrow the percentage of the proceed is going to go to each of the seller. So that way there's no dispute. So for this document, the escrow company actually had my seller notarized as well. So the grantee was notarized, and then the how the proceed was going to get paid out was notarized. And this deal, what I was actually also thinking about, Kenny, you probably heard about this. They can do notary online now, but under
Yes, of
very, very
course.
strict
But
circumstances.
is that in California or another place?
In California, I actually checked ahead of time already. I was going to do that until I remember one of my seller is not resident or U.S. citizen. You can only do that if you are U.S. citizen or resident. If you are
Correct.
foreigners, you cannot do this. And so I contact my title guy ahead of time because I know this will be important for the title company. If they don't approve it, I cannot use it. So I contact him ahead of time. He sent me the list of the criteria that need to be met. So if anyone's interested, I'd be happy to share that with you, or you can ask your title persons.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of
It
people
can
are
work.
interested. I am interested. So let me ask you this. I
Yes.
think if the seller is in California, same time zone as us, it's not as important.
Mhm.
If the seller is in a different time zone, uh, and of course, you will either have to use a notary in another state, or we use an online notary like this. Now, which title company did you have? What's the name of the title
I
company?
typically use First American Title. Yeah, I typically use First American Title, and I think Kenny, you actually met the title guy, Phil Bakers. He's pretty good. I whenever I have questions, he always try to find the answer for me. So he told me it can work. It just need to meet all the criteria on the list he gave me.
How much in advance do you have to tell them?
Notary.
The online notary.
Well, you need to pick the notary from the approved list. So there's like a certain list of notary you can use. You cannot use anyone. Um, if I know I'm going to do online notary, I'm going to work it out in the very very beginning, just in case. If it doesn't work, I still will have my seller do the counselor, like in person notary. So if you have a listing and you know the seller is outside United States but they are residents or U.S. citizens, I think you can consider these options. In fact, the buyer's agent told me he just did a deal with notary like this. So we
Well,
we were on the same page with this one. It just one unfortunately one of the sellers foreigner, so we couldn't do it with that seller. Yeah.
so what happens if you have a U.S. citizen who happens to reside in overseas now? Can you do the online notary?
Yeah, you could. You just need to meet all the criteria. And I think it has a deadline. I think you need to get it notarized before the end of this year. Maybe they do this because of COVID. I don't know. Maybe the deadline will be extended. It's just like it says
Okay,
this special document can only be done, if you meet those criteria. One of the criteria was you need to be notarized, I believe, before December 31st this year. And also this document can only be shown electronically. So if you print it out, I guess it's not valid or something because it's an online notary. That's like
I
a
see.
lot of interesting rule. But again, Kenny, it's a plan B, right? Because if you have a
Yes.
seller who couldn't go to US consular, this will be a perfect thing to do. Or if they are sick, like they couldn't get out their bed to travel. So this one was not even on the market. I fought I found it and I got it for my buyer before it got on the market. They will say no showing until a certain time. But there's always a but. But if you ask, sometimes they will say, okay, you can see it, things like that. So with this one, this agents happen to be Chinese. I haven't done any deal with this agent yet. But she was pretty easy to talk to, and I guess we have pretty good chemistry. So I just told her, I say, hey, Mrs. So and so, I already have a buyer who is urgently needing to buy a home. They sold their home already, and they this is a story. I pinned the pictures. I'm like, 5 people, 2 adults, 3 children, 2 cats living in 1 bedroom apartment. They really need to move, so they are very motivated. So I say, so I'm like, can I go see it? And so she gave me the opportunity to see it. And then my buyer like it. We submit the offer, and then I remember we also were not the highest offer either. So the agent told me she sent out seller multiple counter offers. So other people were thinking like us, and that's why one of the things, as an agent, you shouldn't be shy. You should have a thicker skin. Even though it says coming soon, you just never know. Maybe they can make that exception for you to see it. I don't know if violate any rule or not, but Kenny, you know me, I always try my best to help my buyer, right? So if she said I could see it, then I want to see it. If she said I
Oh
couldn't see it, then
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah. I think you should give it a shot because
Yeah, you should give a shot because you never know. Maybe it's a seller, right? Sellers are not bound by the real estate rule. So if I
yeah.
happen to be contacting, because sometimes they do give the seller contact information. Is if it's a seller occupied, owner occupied property, it will say contact the seller for appointment. Or if it happen to be for sale by owner, they just happen to list on MLS. Then you contact them. I think they can still let you see it. In fact, there's another property I'm going to show it, for my buyer. The agent happened to be the seller, and it's coming soon. So I'm pretty sure that agent will let me see that property. So anyway, so I contact that, and then we make a negotiation. And this is also the one I use. Since my buyer already sold their home, they do have a huge amount of down payment. And so I asked my buyer, would you be willing to put all the down payment you have as earnest money deposit, just to show how serious you are? And my buyer told me they feel comfortable because they are my friend for 20 years. They know I'm not going to screw up, the deal for them. So they have trust in me. Then I can do my job for them. And so we submit the offer. We got seller multiple counter offer. The agent told me, oh, this is also the property we use special numbers. So some of the offers, I don't offer round numbers. Like I don't offer 700. I might offer 700 and 500 some cents, or things like that. Whatever lucky number the buyer has, I use that their lucky number. And that way buyers are more connected with you as well because they feel like you are respecting them, in terms of their special number. So anyhow, I use that. And then also that creates a memory, for the listing agent as well, because you didn't come with a common number. Anyway, the seller multiple counter offer, the listing agent told me she sent out three. Two people has a higher number, like 1.65 million, I think. And then ours was 1.62 AAA. AAA happened to be the lucky number for these buyers. I think I picked the lucky number for them. Anyway, so we got that.
Well,
And
congratulations. So it's
the
in escrow right now. Has it closed?
we supposed to close on the 30th. And so here's the things, Kenny, this is what I also want to share. If you know your sellers are foreigners, always make that preparation ahead of time, because this seller happened to be in China, and I represent the buyer. So the listing agent told me they were originally thinking about coming to the US, sign grantee in the US. Unfortunately, I guess their visa didn't get approved or something happened. They couldn't come. So they make the
Yeah,
appointment with the counselor, and it's going to delay the closing
of
for sure.
course. Of course. Now, earlier you talked about making multiple
Hmm.
appointments. The consulate will give you multiple appointments for the same person.
Yep. Or you can have two people, right? Husband, wife, you each make appointment, right? I mean, it's very easy. I mean, when because I do a lot of deal like this, I always tell my seller to make appointment and then watch it every single day. Because some people will cancel, then they will have a window open. Just quickly grab that window open space, the slot.
All right,
So
somebody
I
has a
did.
question. I'm not sure what your
Yes.
question is, but it says, did you mention that you have provided earnest deposit before escrow? So I think what he meant to ask is that normally you don't provide earnest money before an escrow was open. So he was wondering whether you
Uh,
provided the EMD before the escrow was even open.
no, we were waiting for the escrow to open, but the escrow opened pretty quickly. I think it was in fact, the listing agent asked me who I use for the escrow company because the escrow officer she used was going to retire. And so I
Oh,
gave her my escrow officer. She didn't end up using mine, but it doesn't really matter to me whoever they use. It just, I think maybe that question was asking what I do with the earnest money deposit. So here are the funny things about earnest money deposit for this story as well. My buyer was willing to put, I believe, $450,000 earnest money deposit because that was their down payment. And guess what,
oh,
Kenny? I think the seller's agent might have made a mistake, an honest mistake. She counted back 3%. So instead of getting $450,000, she only get 3% of 160. So how much is that? 50,000
oh.
ish.
She counted for less EMD.
Yes, yes.
Why did she
So I
do
didn't say
that?
anything because that's good for my buyer, right? So
Yeah,
I
of
didn't say
course.
anything.
Maybe she did not pay attention.
Maybe she didn't pay attention, maybe because the sellers are foreigner, it doesn't really make any huge differences to them. So, but here's the thing, I also provide a release of earnest money deposit. I think I wrote it on the original purchase offer, $100,000. So if I put 450,000, I release 100,000, that's still okay, right? But
Yeah,
when the counter came back as 3%, it's not even 100,000 because 3% is, like I said, almost about 50,000, right? So it's
yeah.
not enough. I cannot release $100,000. So when the listing agent asked me, "Hey, Jing, are you releasing $100,000?" That's when I told them, "Hey, you know why on the seller multiple counter offer it says 3%. So we'd be happy to release 3%, but not 100,000 because we never put in
I
100,000."
think she just did not think clearly. That's what happened.
Correct. But like I said, I represent the buyer, right? So I'm not going to say anything if it's good for my
Of course,
buyer.
you don't. Yeah, you don't say anything.
Okay, so if you look at the graph, you're going to notice it is dropping a little bit. It's just very similar to the first table I show. CAR also say the sold price, between July and August has reduced a little bit. So, but the thing is, you know what? I am not that concerned though because this is real estate is seasonal. So usually, summer will get you the highest number, and after that, the purchase price, the sales price will reduce, will drop. So I don't think the
Okay.
market is crashing. I don't think it might be one of the indications of the market is crashing a little bit, but I don't feel it just because it is seasonal, and I see this pretty much every year.
Right.
Median sales price is pretty flat. Yeah, again, it still shows very similar, kind of similar graph. And then if you go to the next one, I think the next one says the new listing. So my buyers are complaining to me, Jean, you told me there will be more houses coming on the market. I don't see them. I'm like, I don't see them either. Because the new listing are decreasing. There are not a lot of listing. But again, remember I talked about real estate is seasonal, so this actually matched the shape of the previous year too. That's usually increase, I mean in the spring and summer, and after summer the numbers start decreasing. So
Yes.
that's that. So nothing to be
Okay.
too alarmed yet. And next one is I think the active listing. There are not that many houses to buy right now. There's only a little bit over 2,000 houses to buy. I only select the single family detached home, so it's only about 2,000. Medium days on market used to be lower. You can see earlier this year used to be a little lower, so now it went up, but not by that much. I think we are spoiled right now. Like if the house is not going to escrow in a week or 2 week, you think something's wrong. But if you look at previous year or the year before, 2019, the medium days on market was 30 some days, right? So we are really spoiled right now. You list that you got sold pretty quickly. The next one is the inventory. Months inventory is reducing slightly, not too bad, but compared to previous 2 years, the inventory it is really really low. That's why buyers are still having a hard time buying their properties. Some of the properties I mean I recently submitted offer for one of my buyer. It was, I forget, it was list for 1.2, maybe 1.2 to 1.3. And then my buyer offered 1.46. The agent told me he think it's going to be sold for 1.5 to 1.6, and that's what he told me. He's like, I think he got like more than 10 offer or about 1.5. That number is really crazy because it's in
So
the
that's a
community I live, so I
question.
put.
Are the charts only for San Diego area?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, this is
Well,
only for San Diego. I only pour San Diego. Yeah,
all right.
pour San Diego for single family home. And then the next one, we're going to look at the median price per square foot. So it's still increasing. I probably will not be buying right now, but I feel like market is still very strong, and I just happen to like that house, and we have the fund to buy it, so might as well go ahead and make that investment. So I will say market. I think I read a lot of different predictions right now. Conservatively, 5% is a lot. If I, for $100,000, that would be, $1 million, that would be 50,000, right? It's hard. It's very hard for someone to save $50,000 a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might as well buy it and then save that money.
Yes. As we know, state of California did not extend the September 30th deadline for the eviction moratorium. Now, given the fact that the eviction moratorium will be over, what do you see is going to happen to the real estate market after the eviction moratorium has ended?
I would say inventory will increase. Maybe not significantly, but for sure will increase because one of my landlord want to sell the property. The tenant's actually a paying tenant. He never late for the payment, but because the eviction moratorium, we couldn't give the 60 days notices. So finally, the window is open for us. We can finally sell, and so you're going to see more inventory on the market, but I just don't think it's going to be significant. It's not going to flood the market right away because some of the people want to remodel the